I'm Jordan Gilliam, and you're watching The Pit.
My name is Fred Brown. I'm president and CEO of the Forbes Funds.
Okay, and what are we doing here today?
I think we're here today to talk about the evolution of the nonprofit ecosystem and the role technology plays in that. But moreover, we're here to also align that pivot with what role a business mindset plays in this new paradigm that we're talking about.
Okay, so tell me then, this in particular today, we're dealing with AI, artificial intelligence. How do you feel that artificial intelligence can be utilized by nonprofit organizations in 2024 and moving into the future?
I think one of the most important things is from our research, most organizations spend between 30 to 60% of their time responding to emails, phone calls, and setting up meetings. This new technology that we're talking about takes into account incoming calls and inbound requests, and on average saves a person 10 hours a week. And so that 10 hours a week allows you to co-create with partners, respond to other things, build relationships that we think are critical, in particular post-COVID. COVID has really created a dynamic where technology become rampant as the primary source of engagement, but yet the type of engagement we've had has been surface or I would say transactional. And so we want this tool to help create space where the transactional nature of your business can function 24/7 without human engagement. And the rest of that time is now bent to promote social cohesion.
What could AI and the utilization of it mean for nonprofits as they go after funding and different sponsorship and grant dollars?
The first thing I think AI does is help aggregate your decision-making process by looking at years and years of decision-making outputs from your organizations and data, and helps you formulate a response that's cogent to today's request or challenge. Secondly, AI allows us to make a decision based upon the aggregate of data that may be 10 years in the making, where some of us may have only been on the job 2 or 3 years. And so it allows us to port that information in. The third thing I think it does is helps create a diversified revenue stream where you're looking at donors, fundraising, generating revenues, designing new business models. And that's why I think AI in and of itself is just a tool without a business construct or business model. It's not as applicable. Now you can use it to address task latent activity, but if you're talking about changing the nature of your organization, changing the fabric of how you think, work, live, and play, you have to have a business construct that allows AI to be optimized.
How does the Forbes Fund optimize AI uses internally within your own staff?
It sits on top of our website now. And so we use it as a way to aggregate all inbound requests. We use it to help schedule meetings. We use it to help write reports. We use it to help aggregate where there's difficult or we say kinks in the armor or roadblocks within the ecosystem. So if you think about the nonprofit ecosystem as an ebb and flow of activity, whether you're responding to crime, housing, unemployment, those are not single points of contact. They're part of an ecosystem. And so AI allows us to look at a single point of contact from a traditional lens and deconstruct that to a multi-sectoral construct, and allows us to explore through a myriad of lens the different causal relationships for why somebody might be homeless, unemployed, or not have a job. And so, a lot of times foundations provide grants to educate a person. So they go and get educated, but they're homeless. So the grant had nothing to do with being homeless. They don't have a car, or they have a reading disability, or they live very far away from places where they can have access to a job. And so AI allows us to take into account at a macro level the different variables that may contribute to a person's state of being. And now we're looking at it from a human-centered design construct versus an XY correlation.
What do you see as the ethical responsibilities for people entering the AI space, and how does that get addressed through the collaborations with Mad Labs and Skill Builder?
Great question. We have a strong concern about the ethical principles of AI, which is why we think it's important that we get in there early and often. We know that the historical frameworks of AI have been driven primarily by dominant culture pedagogy, meaning people who don't look like us are writing code, writing AI, designing stuff. And I don't mean that in a nefarious way. They just sort of people who are designing AI. And so from that perspective, that AI is going to take on the context of the people who are writing it. They don't have a lived experience that you and I have. And so us not being involved with AI early and often doesn't provide the cultural context required for AI to be applicable across race, ethnicity, and social economic strata. Secondly, we are working with a group called Score around data sovereignty. We believe early on in the process that protecting the data of the community is the most primal thing that we should focus on. Everybody is using data to make sales, make connections, call you, and we feel like that should be optimized by the community and not by the businesses. So how do we shift the way the consumer sees their role in the ecosystem? And we believe AI plays a critical role in helping us define that.
How do you feel that AI assists in specifically the, excuse me, I apologize. I'll restart the question. How do you think AI helps reduce bias in decision making within a nonprofit, or how could that look based on your knowledge?
I think that that's a tricky question. One, because you have to assume or assert that the data that's coming into the AI is across a myriad of spaces, right? If it's linear, then you run the risk of having a linear response, right? And so, as I say to people often, you get out of AI what you put into it. So if you're structured your input in a way that is diverse, then it increases the viability that the answer that comes out will be reflective of the diversity of the folks that are asking the question. You know, when you look at ChatGPT and other things, its response is acute, but it's generic. It doesn't take into context a Fred Brown on what my history is, the places I've been. A lot of people see me as only being in the nonprofit ecosystem. I spent time being a probation officer, a school teacher, a football coach. All those things make up who I am, not just the role I currently play as the president and CEO of the Force Fund. So the context by which AI might pull my name out of a hat right now might be from the president and CEO lens and not the person that buried 50 kids from gang violence in the 80s and 90s in Pittsburgh. That's me. That's still a part of me. It represents my ethos. And so it allows me to have a different context and lens by the way I look at problem solving, and AI just layers that in a way that is structural and pragmatic for me, that it reduces my need to go back and remember those things, but it weaves it in there in a very smooth and salient way where I don't have to tell these stories from an historical construct, but more of a cultural construct of why we need this kind of story today.
It was a very powerful response.
Thank you.
What would you say to nonprofit leaders that are looking at this or thinking about an AI for their own organization and are a little bit hesitant? What would you say?
Interesting question. I was doing some PowerPoint presentations across the state. I presented to about 68 organizations across the tri-state area. And I asked a lot of minority-led institutions what their greatest fear was with AI. And honestly, I was just shocked by people's response. They start talking about the Terminator and, you know, things like that, what they saw on TV, the Matrix. And I was like, well, we're not there yet. So I would advise you to get involved so that we don't get there, so that your input changes the way that you view what AI is and isn't. That's science fiction. This is real. There's certain aspects of that science fiction that's real, what makes it seem real. But we have robots now that still can't open the door. So when we're talking about the kind of things that are required for robots to be fair, for us to be fearful of them with regards to their ability to get through just basic fundamental things, we're not there yet. But I would say and suggest to people that there's two pathways, right? There's the early adopters that see the value of a thing and they get involved and they want to shape the thing. Then there's people who wait for the thing to be shaped and they're forced by the nature of the shaping of the thing to either acquiesce to the thing or not be involved with the thing at all. Now, it's our history that we typically sit way in the back and don't get involved at all. And so it just raises our fear of getting involved and we just shun it away or say it's not important. Anybody who don't know how to do AI won't have a job. Like, you got to figure out the role of AI. And people are worried about AI replacing people. I don't think AI is going to replace people, but people who know how to use AI is going to replace people. Everybody's going to start looking for somebody that they can hire to help them understand how to do stuff better, faster, quicker, and cheaper, right? That's just the nature of business. The issue that we have in the nonprofit sector is we don't think about our work through a business construct. We think about it as socially good work. It's still a business. We have to really retrain the mindsets of nonprofit leaders to adopt entrepreneurial mindsets to be effective, or AI just becomes another tool that's shiny and bright and loses its real application.
That's a really good answer. I think we're wrapping up with your time, right?
We got a couple more minutes.
Okay. So with that in mind, what is the responsibility for nonprofit leaders? You're touching on it here in this last answer. What is the responsibility that we have as nonprofit leaders, but especially being those in the city of Pittsburgh? What is the importance for us to be some of the leaders getting involved in AI before the rest of the world has it happen for them?
Terrific question.
There's 90 communities in Allegheny County, 43 are comprised of people of color. Of the 43 communities, there's 80,000. Want me to start over? Great question. There's 90 communities in Allegheny County, 43 are comprised of people of color. Of the 43 communities, there's 80,600 people that look like you and I. Out of that number, there's 46,000 of those people on probation and parole, more than half. And so what role does technology play in creating a pathway for people who are returning citizens, didn't finish college, didn't finish high school, that they can get involved in technology and make $50,000, $60,000 as a career pathway, as a starting salary? And so the role of the nonprofit is to create a bridge between the emerging opportunity and the skill set of the people. That's the essence of our work, is to restore hope in people who've lost hope. It's to be a beacon of life. AI is the new phase. It's the new frontier. Our inability to engage in it is at our own dismay. Like, if we don't get involved with it and shape it in a way that our colleagues, our friends and family see the value of it, somebody else will make it more valuable for their organization, their community and region, and we'll have limited access to it, which we already see happening in housing. We see it happening in education. We see it happening in jobs. And so this is a construct of the dominant culture pedagogy in the places we live in. We have a chance through AI to level the playing field. AI is not looking at where you were born, how much money you got, what community you're living in. It's looking at the ideas and concepts and this application to real problems of the world today, how they might be solved. I think people of color are the greatest at solving problems. I think we're the most revered with regards to our resilience. The thing that we lack is owning the process by which we bring a problem solving situation to the table and owning how we monetize that. We give it away. We're so happy to tell people, I got an idea, I got this thing, because we want to be seen, right? We want to be respected. But at this stage of the game, you need to be able to eat. You need to be able to feed your family. And I believe that the role of the nonprofit is to, number one, practice AI at some level. Don't wait. Get in there early enough. And two, if you're uncomfortable right now, find a partner that you trust that can bring you into an AI ecosystem in a way that makes sense to you. And it increases the opportunity for you and that partner to build long-term opportunities. Three, use AI to look at ways to diversify your revenue streams so that you're not 100% relying on grant dollars to run your organization, because funders change their perspective every year. They decide that they want to focus on education, incarceration, unemployment, housing. If you run a program, no programming within 1 year can fix the problems that we're focused on today. You're talking about 40 years that a problem went into effect. You're not going to have 1 year of funding to change that. And so this notion that 1 year of funding is going to change anything is just nonsensical. The reality is 1 year of funding can prick the consciousness of people and assist them and begin to put them on a pathway to help people solve their own problems. But that requires trust. How many times have a person been in a program where their trust was lost? So every time you engage a human being, you have to restore trust and tell them that they're capable of achieving all things when they don't have a lot of faith in their own skill set. AI changes that. You can take an idea and it can metamorphosize in seconds and articulate your thoughts that you were thinking and put it on paper in such a clear and salient way that it's like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It restores the hope in your ideas. It restores the ability to write in a cogent fashion where you can share that with people. And in a moment, they can grasp the concept of what you're talking about. That's a game changer. It's a total game changer.
It sounds like AI also could be something that organizations may lean on too much and could end up almost depending on. So what are the dangers in maybe trying to utilize this technology to do too much? And like what are the steps that you can take as a leader, as somebody as an administrator of an AI to be able to keep the human centered nature of the value of an organization strong and running while still interacting with this new technology?
I think that's a very important aspect of the work. I think if organizations adopt a human-centered design, moreover, a humanity-centered design, they will understand that the concept of this tool is simply a tool to aid and abet the human experience, right? Einstein said you can't solve a problem with the same energy that created the problem. AI allows us to resonate at a different frequency to solve social phenomena. There's at no point in time that we can see in the immediate future that AI is going to fix us. It's going to provide tools to help us address issues that are roadblocks to our success. I think at the end of the day, people are the most powerful instrument to change their circumstances. AI is simply a tool that advances me as a person to do that at the highest level of fidelity. And so if it's done in an ethical way with a high level of fidelity with tangible, measurable outcomes, it will shape me as a human being to function with a higher level of degree of capacity. That increased capacity is going to shift the way I think about problem solving, not just at work, but at home and with my friends and colleagues. It's going to reshape the things in my life that I value and have importance. How much time I spend with my child. So AI can create this dynamic where I start looking at my weekly schedule and go, wow, this week, this thing saved me 10 hours of work. Can I now take my daughter to school? Can I pick her up and can I take her to the park? Can I now be the father I wanted to be, but because of work, I couldn't? Hey, I want to call my wife up or my partner and say, hey, babe, let's go to lunch. Can AI fill 2 hours of my day so I can spend quality time with my family? I think we have to reshape how AI can aid and abet the things that we think are important to create a work-life balance. Anything that runs 100% in one direction is a problem, right? If I let it fix everything, it's going to, take over the construct of what I'm trying to get at, which at the end of the day, if I'm trying to change you as a human being, there is no process by which I can use the same technique on you, and you, right? Each one of us are uniquely different. And so what I believe to be the concern that I don't think is as real is this is not uniformly applicable to everybody. Like you can just see in the demo day, people saw AI's usage from totally different lenses. The same thing, the same tool, the same application, and people use it in a myriad of ways that differentiated from each other. There was no organization that did the same thing the same way, right? And so if you think about those applications, what we hope AI does is allow that to be on cruise control so people can start to ideate, to think about, wow, if I could get that to run at this percentage of success and it yields a 30% yield back to the bottom line, if I take that 30% and roll it into some R&D, and now I take that R&D and say, if I offset my grant making by 30% 3 years in a row, I can reduce my overall request by 90% in 5 years, right? Give or take 3 to 5%, right? And so when I look at that trajectory, I could predict, well, how many staff do I need? How much work do I need to do? How many donors do I need to find? How much fundraising do I need to have? Right now, that's a crapshoot. People sit in the room and go, I think we need to do this. What's the data that's driving that decision making? Right? AI changes that whole nature. It aggregates that data in a way that you can predict what's required, look at how much time you need to put it in, and ultimately reposition yourself as a human being to optimize that time and not be consumed by that time, which will be the first time for us in many years that we can look at a problem solving construct and go, I can give this 2 hours and give my family 4. I can give 2 hours to ideation with you and we can collaborate, right? I can give 2 hours to me just processing what's going on with my team and trying to understand at a deeper level how I can be a better leader. That's what I believe AI offers us.
What I'm going to do is ask you a question that Now you don't have to answer anymore. I could ask Gilly. And so we're going to do a comparison to see what the response that Gilly gives in reference to it. So for anybody out there who's now very intrigued and excited, how can an organization get involved with the AI cohorts through the Forbes funds?
Great question. Just go to our info at forcefunds.org, .org information center, and I think it's info at forcefunds.com, right? Get our data and connect with Emily. Emily's leading our work on the ground. I'm very excited about the three cohorts we're offering, but for the most part, it's really about people have to take a step towards the thing. Like so many times people want us to bring them the thing,
Yeah.
right? And we got to break that cycle. Like I appreciate you coming to play golf. Like you got the first couple of times you came, you was like kind of on the edge. Then you started getting more involved and you start swinging better. Then you start embracing the journey, right? I will close by saying the journey is really the prize.
Mhm.
Sometimes people focus so much on getting the prize, they really lose the essence of why the prize is important in the first place. And so AI is just helping us optimize the journey so that we can see the prize. And the prize is constantly moving because we're not stagnant. We are human beings evolving on a day-to-day level. And so AI is helping us iterate to meet the challenges that are happening in the world and in our lives on a daily basis.
Fred, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.